Welcome back, y'all. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. I hope that y'all had a great Wednesday. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. Number one, Tennessee just got a new safety commit for 2026, KJ McClain. We talked about him some over the previous weekend. I think that he's a good player. We'll talk about his film and talk about his game, how he might help Tennessee. Also want to talk about the house settlement. There's a lot of things going on. I think it's about to start crumbling. And there are a couple of new NIL bills. We told y'all last week that the government's trying to get their hands into this thing. So we're going to break down the two bills that we know of up to this point. One's called the SCORE Act. The other one's called the Sports Act. Before, we only knew about one of them, but we got some more details, and we're going to be breaking all that down for y'all. I also got to talk to a couple of very highly rated players' parents about the house settlement. I got some of their thoughts. Some of it will correlate to KJ, to what's going on with this class and all that good stuff. As always, y'all, please do us a very big favor. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And I want to kick this thing off. Actually, you know what? We're going to start right here. I'm going to tell you what I learned because I think that y'all need to hear this part of it first before we get to our new safety. But I talked to a couple of very highly rated players' parents yesterday. Some of them were for 2010, from 2026. And then the other ones, they were just younger, but they're all going to be like 4 or 5 star guys. So with the players that are in the 2026 class, they've been going on their visits and stuff. And with the house settlement, what they've been hearing from coaches, from their agents, and all this type of stuff is revenue sharing is going to be like the bulk. It's going to be the base of their salary. NIL is just going to be like an add-on to it. I think that we've talked about that in some of the previous videos. But that's how things are kind of set up at this point. And so, like, let's just say, if it's a player that maybe they're kind of like being promised $500,000 as a freshman, that's just from their revenue sharing. Then you get whatever the NIL is on top of that. Everybody on the football team should be getting paid. Of course, I'm talking about the football players. Everyone should get something. And as far as like with NIL, there is a big push right now for all the players to choose their school to get their NIL contract signed, because on the first, it's going to be under scrutiny, right? So like any payment, it's going to be lessened. I'm talking about a lot. So some of the players that I'm talking to are talking to their parents. They're going to get, 6-figure contracts, 7-figure contracts. After the first, that's going to look more like, $20,000. So you could go from like $800,000 to, $20,000, $10,000. So it is a huge, huge difference. So like I said, the agents, of course, they're pushing to get all these deals done. And everything's going to be paid up front. Now, if the player chooses to go somewhere else, because I know that's going to be one of the questions, then that money has to be paid back. So there's going to be buyouts. I think that's pretty much standard practice for all Power 4 programs. But that's how it looks. So as we're talking about the players coming up on these visits and things like that, understand that we're going to start to see a lot more players coming off of the board. We talked about some of the guys want to, choose their school at some point next month or in August or during the football season. They might come out and do that publicly, later on. But I feel like the staff is going to know a lot of what their class looks like by the first. And we don't typically push the players, but I think that it's something that's going to just be built in where players want to choose very quickly. So we just got a couple more weeks of OVs. So we got this weekend, which is going to be big for us. We already talked about some of the players. Then we have next weekend. That one's going to be even bigger. Expect that within that time frame, several players will be choosing schools, and we'll have a much better understanding of who Tennessee is going to be landing. But I wanted to make sure that I did say that, because once we get to KJ, we're going to, try to make sure that everything does make sense. Now, I want to talk some about this house settlement. So this right here, this is from Ross Dellinger. That's a great place for you to, if you want house settlement updates or really just like college sports updates, all this type of stuff with NIL revenue sharing. He's like the first person that breaks the news. But this is something that he tweeted out earlier today. And there's already going to be some Title IX issues, right? Like y'all can read what's up there. So Title IX, that's going to be a major problem. And it sounds like, because they are challenging this in the courts with the house settlement, that the payment, that back pay, that's going to get held up. Now, with Title IX, this is something that I've been pretty vocal on. I want everyone to make some money. It's going to be tough. I think that the best answer for all the questions that we have, for all the problems that we have, is a CBA. With the CBA, it might only work for football and for basketball. It might not work for the other sports because they're not really making too much money. So I think that something's going to have to give so that we don't run into more of these Title IX issues. But as y'all can see, there's some more issues that they have stacked up. So it's going to continue to be issue after issue after issue. That's kind of where we're at as far as the house settlement thing goes. Also, I don't know if I even said this, but with the players' parents that I'll talk to, whether they were younger or parents of younger kids or of older kids, none of them really like this house settlement just because they feel like it's not fair. Basically, for that reason, them being football players, understanding that football is really making all the money. Football pays for pretty much every other sport, football and basketball. Basketball, not so much. Really, football pays for everything. So they're like, well, shoot, like, why do we have to share the revenue with these other sports? I'm just telling you how people are feeling. They don't like it, and they're ready, okay, for one of these NIL deals to get shot down because people are about to start soon. We already knew that. So let me go on to the next part here. This is something that I actually saw yesterday, but I didn't have a chance to bring it to y'all. This is showing you what the CAPS software looks like. This is with revenue sharing. This is what the institutions get to look at. So, like, let's just say if you're Coach Heupel or if you're like a GM, whatever, this is your $20 million. You can organize things by sport. How much money do you have allocated to what sport? All that good stuff. Then you click on the sport. Right here, they have women's soccer. You can see how much money you have allocated there, what players are getting paid the most money, and then you can click on a player. You can see how much money that player is getting, what their scholarship looks like, things like that. So it is organized. I think that's a very positive thing. You have to have some type of organization. Revenue sharing is probably going to stick around for a little bit of time. But like I said, players had no input on what the revenue sharing is. $20 million to me is probably not enough money. $20 million or 22%, that's something that they just made up. So this whole thing is about to end up getting blown up. But especially this part, this is NIL Go. So this is where you upload your NIL contract, and NIL Go is the NIL clearinghouse. That's how they look at your NIL deal and say, hey, this is either within market value or it's not. But this is where you would upload your actual contract at. Then you can see that there's several different tabs that the players are entering in personal information. One of the things that stood out to me here, though, is that you can see that the NIL obligations is part of it. So they want to know exactly what you're doing. Pete talked about that on Saturday. And then it brings you to this final page here where it tells you either your deal got cleared or it didn't. Now, I don't know if this is an instant thing or if it, maybe sometimes it's going to take a couple of days. No idea. But every single time that this comes back negative, where the players' NIL deal didn't go through, it's going to be a lawsuit. So it's going to be very short-lived. I think that just because we all know that court cases take some time, there are some ways that maybe you could do something to get the process sped up. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that the house settlement might stick for this year. But after that, I think it's totally done. So we are pretty far away from things, being solid. And what they're looking for, what the college sports mafia is looking for, is a government pass. That brings us to these bills. Now, the first one, it's called the SCORE Act. That's the bill that we talked about last week. I told you, I think it's tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. They're going to have the hearing for it. So this is the bill that is going to be a lot more like institution friendly. This is pretty much Greg Sankey and all his goons. Hey, we want y'all to draw it up just like this. That's what this is. This is what they want, that first one. So we don't have the actual bill just yet. I have to wait till the morning, listen to what they have to say, have a better understanding of it. But we do have like the pretty much overall gist of what they're trying to get done. So we'll look at both of these bills side by side and talk about what's different about both of them. But one of the things that I did find interesting is that with this hearing coming up on the 12th, is that they've got a player to be a witness, or it's a student athlete that's going to be there as a witness. It's a swimmer. So as we touched on early on in this stream, the sports programs that are in the biggest jeopardy to have some issues as things move forward, that if push comes to shove and cuts have to be made, swimming, track and field, soccer, sports like that really don't generate any money, those are the first ones that are going to end up getting cut. So they're bringing in people that are technically student athletes but don't represent all student athletes to try to save face and say, hey, see, we are trying to listen to what the athletes are saying, but they're really not. It would, in some situations, it just based off how you look at it, it might be more beneficial for the players of those sports to maybe side with the institutions or with the Greg Sankeys, right? Because it's not all institutions. We all know Tennessee. We don't Danny White came out and said that he was for CBA. CBA is the only real fix. Now, the second bill, Okay, this is one that I just found out about. I actually got to read this bill, look at it. This is called the Sports Act. So I'm gonna break down some of the key points to the Sports Act real quick, and then we'll move on to KJ. But right here, you can see that they've got the NIL rights. That's something that's really big for both of these bills. They want to make sure that they have the verbiage and the language that says that they want to keep the players' NIL rights. But really, for this second one, for the Sports Act, they're not really specifying that there's going to be any cap on NIL. But for the first one, there will most definitely be a cap. So we all know that, like with these bills and stuff, they're going to put a whole bunch of good looking stuff in there, but hide what they're really trying to do. That's the more negative things. So next, they want to give these players 10 years to get 4 years worth of education done. So what that would mean is from the time that you step on campus, you have a 10-year running clock to get your 4 years done. So you could, go there for 1 year, stop, take a break, and come back for the final 3 years, and so on and so forth. And that's all going to be covered by scholarships. So I love that because I'm in favor of what is in favor of these players. But my question is, how will the schools have enough money to set to the side for all these players for such a long period of time? It'll probably be difficult, so it's a good idea, but I just don't know how feasible that is. Next is going to be, there will be some, it's not actual college courses. It's kind of like training that all the players will have to take, and y'all can see what it says there. I can't read off some of that stuff because YouTube will end up blocking this video, but I think that that's good. I think that's a positive thing. It's some people might not want to take those courses and all of that, but for me, I feel like that should be standard practice. You should probably be taking courses like this in high school, really. And then next, these players will be able to get, it's saying here 2 years, but I've heard up to 4 years after they get done playing of, medical coverage, but that's just going to be for sports-related injuries. So I absolutely love that. If you think about some of the players, they might end up, they might not have a full scholarship. We know that the scholarship limit's technically going up for all sports, I think, with this new House settlement. But we don't know exactly how that's going to be divvied up. Like they might still do some partials here and there. Either way, if these players have student loan debts, and then if something happens and they, end up with some medical debt too, that would suck for them. So I think that that's a great thing. Whenever the players do sit down and come together and make their CBA, they need to be pushing for some long-term, like medical benefits for sure. All right. So next is going to be with the scholarships. Something that a lot of people didn't know with these scholarships is it's year to year. It's not 4 year scholarships. So what used to happen, right, prior to NIL and prior to the players having any rights, they had no rights, and people would, they would do some of these kids really dirty. Like you could, let's just say, if you come in as a freshman, if you have an injury, then they could cut you, right? Like your scholarship ends after this term, and then you have to pay for school if you want to stay here, or you got to go somewhere else. So now you've got a player that's injured that didn't make any money, because this is, prior to even stipends and stuff. Like the, $500 stipends was a big deal whenever that first started. Players did not make a dime. But you go out there, lay your body out there, sacrifice your body, and, you have no medical coverage, you have no money, you have nothing. So, and, then you don't even have an education either. So that's how things used to be. I think that this should be standard practice too, where the scholarships will be for, like we talked about, for 4 years worth of your education, whether you get hurt or not. I think that that's big. Next thing is going to be with the agent oversight. That's also pretty big for me. And this, with this bill, it's more about just like guidelines. Basically, they're going to have, certified agents and things like that. You can go and find them. And or they're going to have like a website for you to go and look and see, hey, these are all the certified agents. You can still, with this bill, you can still get an agent that isn't certified, but it's not in the player's best interest, because look at the Nico situation. He didn't have a real agent representing him, and he got messed up. We got messed up. So that's the best thing for all these players. I think being an agent, kind of like being a doctor, you need to know what the heck you're doing. So I like that fact, but with the other bill, I think that you have to pick an agent from one of those lists. That other one, it feels a lot like fascism to me. So I don't like that one at all. All right, so next thing, this is going to be for both of the bills. The players cannot be employed by the institutions, by the conferences, nothing. That's big. I have no idea why, but the government people, they don't want that happening. And then last thing, this is also for both of these bills, and that is that this new bill will be the basically the NIL law for all of college sports. It's going to supersede what your state says. And I guess to some degree, maybe not really what the federal law says. With the first one, it could. It's gonna, they're trying to get a pass so that they don't have to pay these players and they can put a cap on their name, image, and likeness. So this is just a quick little, this will show you some of the differences that we know about both of these bills. Again, for the SCORE Act, that's the first one that's more institution friendly. We don't know everything about how that's going to look just yet, but we will within like the next 24 hours. And then for the other one, you can see that they have a lot of really good benefits for these players. We already talked about some of the similarities and things like that. So one of the other things that I do want to point out is that with the Sports Act, that's the more player friendly act, they're talking about doing this like public website that will show all the NIL contracts. It'll be like a mandatory thing that you've got to submit the information of your NIL contract. It's not going to say the players' names. They're not supposed to give you any information that indicates who that player is. But it's supposed to be there so that everyone can see what fair market value is. And this is what kind of scares me with that Sports Act, is that some of the language, I feel like they might be trying to put some caps in there for NIL. But either way, I know that there's a lot of people that want to be, pocket watching and all of that. I think that with what they would have to put out there, like you got to put what the social media following looks like. You got to put, hey, this is a quarterback. They're making, $2 million a year. They've got 125,000 followers on social media. You can put the pieces together and figure out who those players are. So I don't know if that's going to work either, but I had to definitely point that out just because I know that that's something that people would want to talk about. So let me go ahead and get to this chat real quick. Let me try to catch up with y'all, and then we're going to start talking about KJ. What's going on, MG Way? Appreciate you for joining us, dog. Always good to hear from you. What's going on, bro? Happy to see you. Boy, did you see that they might change college basketball to 4 quarters? What's your thoughts, big dog? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I've got more used to the halves. I did see that. It'll probably slow things down more. I don't know. I mean, does it help the players out? Maybe it could. I know that women's basketball is based off quarters, right? I don't know. I think that it might be more beneficial for these players if it's in quarters. And I'm sure that, as fans, we'll get used to watching it. It doesn't make a huge difference for me personally. Honestly, doesn't. This isn't going to hold up in court. Yeah, I don't think any of this stuff holds up for sure. And is the house settlement stuff that I'm talking about the same that ZZ's going through? So I think that it's all kind of being done by the same people, right? So with that first one, with that SCORE Act, that's going to be more implemented by Nick Saban's team, by Trump. The thing that ZZ's going through, where the DOJ came down and there was like, no, we don't want players getting the 5th year. That's from that same group. So pretty much anything that you feel like isn't in favor of the players, that's coming from that side. Okay, the other side stuff, it might still be not as player, or it might not be super player friendly, but it'll be a lot more player friendly than what like the SCORE Act and what Greg Sank and all them are trying to do. Like I said, I mean, I feel like, push come to shove, Sank and them, they might need to face some type of criminal charges just because it is ridiculous what they're doing. There's no real competition. There's no other, leagues or anything like that. It's just, they are trying to corner this market and take away players' rights, these young people's rights. That pisses me off. So next, right here, from my dog, saying as a former college swimmer, I really hope that it can survive 100%. And I think that it should be fine if they don't mess things up too much with football. So I think that they can find a way to save it. Like whenever they come together with that CBA, I do think that basketball and football, they might need their own thing, because if you try to make that equal with all the other sports, it's not going to be equal. Someone's going to get slighted, or someone's going to feel slighted. And that's where the issue kind of comes in at. I think that for some of those sports, it might be more about, hey, you want for them to make money. But if they weren't really getting full scholarships, and if they can get full scholarships now, that it might look something like that, where, hey, this sport's getting full scholarships, football and basketball, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know what I'm saying? It might not necessarily feel fair, but at the same time, you have to look at the revenue that they're bringing in, and not just the revenue, but you got to look at the actual profit too. You know what I'm saying? So let me come on down. This is the last one, and then we're going to jump into KJ. Saying that it's really sad and unfair, especially for people like Nico that didn't have a real agent. Yeah, I mean, and I've said that. I know that there's a lot of folks that are mad at Nico. I don't know if y'all watch Nico's social media. I'm still following him on IG. And man, he posts something almost every day about Tennessee. Like almost every single day. He's got pictures of our players and stuff, or videos of our players. So I know that he probably wanted to still be here. Like that's really not on him. And you got to understand, these are still kids. I know that technically they're 18, whatever. You feel like they're grown, but they're really not so much, right? Like, I mean, they're still, they have to listen to their folks. So yes, if you get misled, it can hurt these players for a long time, like for life. So it is difficult, and hopefully, everything works out for everybody. All right, so is this bad for Tennessee baseball in terms of money? With the revenue sharing part of it, I don't know. I think that Tennessee's probably going to split up money pretty evenly. But something else too, and I'll say this real quick, and then we're going to jump into KJ. But I've heard the things being floated out there about Texas Tech using $55 million for all their sports. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that, because it's like the revenue sharing part can only be $20 million. But then you look at what they can do with their NIL. If this NIL goal thing, if this lasts for any period of time, then they're not going to be able to get big contracts like that to have that much money. So I'm saying that just to say that there are some schools, kind of, I guess, like a Texas Tech, like a Tennessee, that would try to allocate funds to everything and spread it out evenly. But then you've got some schools that are just basketball schools. Their basketball programs are going to flourish. There's no real Power 4 programs that I know of that's just baseball schools. Maybe like Vandy, they might put more towards their baseball team. Maybe not more. They might put more towards their baseball team than Tennessee puts towards ours, because we have to put a lot towards our football team. So I'm just saying that it's not going to be split up evenly with everyone, but Tennessee's going to find a way to make all that stuff work. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about KJ, y'all. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Let me pull up my dog right here. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna get this out y'all's way. So KJ McClain, I think that he's good. All right, I know that there's a lot of people that are looking at his size. And yeah, I mean, listen, he's close to 6 feet tall, 160 pounds. He's not the biggest guy. He's going to have to gain some weight for sure, especially playing at safety. And then I'm going to show y'all here what his offers look like. Let's bring him on down. So right here, y'all can take a look at the offers that he had. And, you can see too, there was another thing right here. I don't know. Can you still see it? Okay. Yeah. So this right here, this actually shows you how many players were drafted, right, within the past 5 years, okay, for all these schools. So, and this is safeties, right? So Tennessee had 1, Penn State had 4, Rutgers had 0. Let's see about A&M. I think that they had 0 too. Yeah, A&M, they had 0. Syracuse. So these are just some of the schools. They had 2. So these are just some of the schools that we were in competition with. Actually, Michigan State, I think, was the biggest competition, and they had 0. Pretty much everywhere. I felt like if it was between us and Michigan State, that he would be picking us, just unless Michigan State was going to offer him a ton of money. And the whole point in talking about, in bringing up, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up his clips too, but the whole point in talking about what, these players are seeing, first, let me show y'all this. Let me show y'all that. So his brother plays for the Buckeyes. You can look at his size, right? 6 feet, 192 pounds. So it is in him that he could probably get up to that size. That's where we need him to be. If he gets up there, he can most definitely play. But the whole reason I wanted to talk about what people are saying as far as the parents of these players, with NIL, with the revenue sharing, is that there is a push to get players off the board quickly, because we have to know how much money do we have to allocate to the players, not just for this year, but for the future. It's so that we know, like who can we add with revenue sharing, with NIL, with all that stuff. So I think that that's part of the reason that we're seeing KJ pulling the trigger. I feel like he probably would. We've also got the other kid, Thompson. I think he's about to probably choose Tennessee too. He said that he was going to wait until close to like the 20th. But over these next couple of weeks, we're going to see more and more players coming off of boards, and we will know exactly how this class is going to end up looking. But watching him on film, one of the things that I've noticed, because I've watched it several times, is that he does understand football well. And I was reading what his coach said. He said, number one, that he has gained some weight. So listed at 160, he might be closer to about 170. It's only 10 pounds, but that's a huge difference. If he could come in at about 180, he's not that far off from being able to play. So he could probably do that in the course of like a full calendar year. But he also said that he has a really high football IQ. I'm seeing that with him. Like, you can tell that he understands football. I feel like his team is well coached. And he's not afraid to be physical, right? Like he doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of weight to be able to really thump folks, but that's going to come. It's more about, are you willing to be physical, to stick your neck in there? I see that with him. But now with his coverage skills, I see a lot of good things. Like you see that pop, that burst in and out of his breaks. That looks really good to me here. So he definitely needs to work on some of his like technique stuff. I don't absolutely love his back pedal, but for most of the safeties in high school, that type of stuff's not going to look great. But you saw in that last play how he will hit people. So that's a big deal to have a player that can grow into someone that's coverage skills will be good, but they're also physical. Now, will he be able to play safety in the SEC? Right now, I feel like it'll probably take him a couple years to be strong enough, big enough, all that good stuff to be able to actually play at safety for Tennessee, especially how we like to play him. But at star, maybe a cornerback, he gives you a lot of versatility, and I do think he's a pretty good option. If it's a season like what we're having now, where, I mean, shoot, really like looking at him, looking at his frame, I'm seeing a little bit of Andre Turntime, but I think that his ceiling might be a little bit higher because Andre Turntime, he just started to get more physical. He was kind of, I'm not going to say scared of the contact, but he was kind of shying away from it. I don't see that here with KJ. So he might actually be maybe like a step ahead. I know that Andre Turntime was rated as a 4-star. Y'all know that I don't really care about those ratings too much. I just show it. I show it for the people who do care. But I'm saying all those things just to say he does his game. I see an Andre Turntime that comes in a little bit more physical once he gains the weight. That's the other part of it. I think Turntime might have been a little bit bigger. So, yeah, I think that he's going to be good, probably a year or two away from really helping us on defense. But like you see that closing speed, you know what I'm saying? He has really good fundamentals and things like that, which I absolutely love. But, yeah, you know, maybe he can help out on special teams. He might even be like a year away from that, maybe. Just really all depends. He'd probably have to be up to at least 180 pounds to see the field, period. But I think that this is a good pickup for us, right? Like we need safeties. I actually read that Tennessee might try to add 3. I think that we need to at least add 3. I would try to add 4, really, like with how things are looking, because we need to add somebody that can play next year. I don't know that there's anybody like, you know, if it's Thompson, I don't see him being able to help us out next season. If it's Craig Tutt, I don't really see him being able to really help us out next year either. Like he might have to, just because we don't have too many other options. But I'm feeling like, shoot, man, you get you a couple of guys that you feel like will stick around with you, that might not take too much off of your salary cap. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, you go out to the transfer portal for at least next season, because I think that we're going to absolutely have to. I don't know how it's going to work because we've got guys that feel like they want to start. You know, will we have enough room? It's just, this class is gonna be big for our safeties. I'll just say it that way. So let me go ahead and get into these chats, y'all. I'm gonna come right back and get into the chats and see what everybody has to say about KJ, because I know that there are some. Okay, so you're talking about Mosley, yeah. So I don't remember how big he was coming out. You know what I'm saying? Like coming out of high school, I feel like he might have been smaller. But yeah, I mean, listen, you know, I think that he is going to have to gain weight, though. Like, I'm just going to tell you, you know, like it is such a different time. Okay, yeah, build, yeah. It's a different time, y'all. And I know that's not that far off, but every single year the players get bigger, faster, stronger. There's no question. I think that he knows that he's going to have to gain the weight. I think he has a frame that to me looks like he can get up to about maybe like 190 pretty safely. For me, though, like with safeties, you kind of want them to be closer to about 200 pounds, which is why I say maybe Star might be better for him. But because he is such a tough-looking player, he might be able to get away with playing at, you know, like a $190. But yeah, I think that his skill set's really good. It's just, you know, how does he feel his frame out? That's the only real concern that I've had about him since I've watched him play. But you know, coming from Jersey, he's going to see pretty good football. It's going to be different coming down here, but the staff knows what they're doing. You know, Coach Banks, he knows what he's doing. I know people kind of, you know, look at Coach Banks and say, well, he's not bringing in the highest rated safeties and stuff, which is true, but he's still doing a good job of getting them to the next level. Like he put Will Brooks, he didn't stick with the Chiefs, but at least he got the opportunity to go and play with them. You know what I'm saying? That's huge. That's a walk-on player. So I think that he can do wonders. And if players just buy into our system, if they listen, if they take to the coaching, we should be okay. I do still want to see a really, really good safety. I think that takes this defense from being great to being like all-time great level. That's what we've been missing, is that really high, really very talented safety, I think that would take us to a totally different stratosphere. Let me see what this next one here is saying. I don't want to be obsessed about star rating, but I do notice that we don't really land many 4 or 5 star safeties. And see, that's a fact, bro. Like that is a fact, and it's something that you can't really overlook. That, you know what I'm saying? That's like the only spot that we haven't been consistently bringing in good players. We talked about the offensive line. Felt like that was kind of a problem with Coach E, but look at what he's doing now. He gets David Sanders. It feels like Darius Gray is a very realistic possibility. Wide receivers, we brought in some really good ones there. Tight ends, we're bringing in really good ones there. Obviously, you know, linebackers, studs. D-line, don't even got to talk about it. Studs everywhere. Cornerbacks, really highly rated players. I think that, you know, with the transfer portal too, we do a great job of, you know, finding players that might have been overlooked some. You know, like we got some studs out of the portal, and it's just about safety, which I think that we've done a good job of getting players out of the portal there too. We just don't really hold on to them that much, and I think that some of it might be because we don't play them as much. It also does feel like, and I've seen this mentioned too, maybe we don't allocate enough funds to safeties. Maybe Coach Banks feels like, man, look, I don't know. I'm just speculating. Maybe he feels like, man, look, I can save some money for some other spots. Give me a really good pass rush. I'll take care of the safeties. We just need people who can, you know, stay over the top and things like that. But I feel like we are bringing in players that might be able to get over that hump with the coverage and with the physicality and all that good stuff. So this one is saying that I think part of the problem is there doesn't seem to be as many great safeties around the country. It feels like more teams just, oh man. Yeah, I would have to disagree with that, bro. It's some freaking studs. Like, did you see the safety that that the Gamecocks had? He was like 6'4", 230 and ran like a 4.3. I mean, they're out there, bro. Like, they're out there. Look at the safeties that Texas had. Look at the safeties that Georgia had. Like, you know, KJ Bolden. I got to watch him play a lot a couple of years ago at Buford. You know what I'm saying? And shoot, man, he almost didn't even go to Georgia. Y'all just don't know. Y'all just don't know how close that was to happening. But he's about to be a first. Like, there's a lot of really good safeties. We're just not, honestly speaking, like, I don't even know when the last time is that Tennessee got like a top 60 safety. Well, Shady, I think that Shady Hayward was the last one, but he flipped. And it sounds like he flipped because of NIL. So like I said, it does kind of feel like maybe we just don't allocate enough funds to safety. That needs to stop, though. Like, I think that for this next class, we need to go out and spend more money on our safeties. We've got to find a way to bring them in. If it means that Coach Allen Williams has to talk more to the safeties, and if it's not as much Coach Banks, I don't care what we got to do, but we do need to find the higher caliber safety. Now, listen, I'm not taking a shot at KJ. I think that KJ is a really good player. I think that he's probably underrated. We can see where he's going to end up being at once he gains the weight, once he fills out his frame and things like that. But I think that we can definitely do better. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. All right, was Boo recruited as a safety? I don't know. That's a good question. So Boo, he was obviously a very, very good player. I think that they wanted him to play at star. I do personally. Now I can't tell you that for a fact, but I think that's what they wanted him to play at. Typically with your safeties, because I know the Boo's listed he's listed like a shade up under 6 feet. I don't know how tall he actually. I would say he's probably closer to like 5'10" than he is to 6 feet tall. So I think that the slot, the star, fit him a little bit more. But yeah, he was really good. But that one was kind of like, you know, in-state guy. I kind of feel like he was going to come here anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just that one. Like, I think that we kind of got lucky with it. I'll say it that way. And I don't mean to undermine what the coaches did, because I know they put a lot of work in. But I feel like he was probably going to come here anyway, unless we just totally messed it up. And yeah, man, listen, South Carolina's got a lot of studs, dude. Like, they've got, I don't even know where they're finding them from, but it's players out there. And listen, P said it. He said it perfectly. He said, dude, I can't turn on a high school game. I can't go to a high school game without seeing these great safety bodies. I feel the same way. Like, I went up and watched Buford's 7-on-7 at UGA yesterday. I'm seeing all these dudes that are, you know, like 6'1", 6'2", you know what I'm saying, about 185, 190. They got great hips. I'm going to tell y'all, too, there's a cornerback. I can't think of his name. He plays for North Gwinnett, I think, number 27. He looks big. He looks like he's about 6'2", 6'3", maybe close to 200 pounds. I don't know how big he actually is. You want to talk about a guy that if we're not already talking to, talk to him right now. He's playing at corner, but he can definitely play safety at a high level, right? I mean, perfect build, but that's the point, though, is that you see these guys everywhere. Yeah, I would say at least here in Georgia. There's a whole lot of really good safety bodies. I just think that the staff is, they're just going to have to do better closing. But that's pretty much it. I think that KJ is a great pickup. Great pickup. Again, I'm not saying that I'm not saying nothing bad about him. He does have to get bigger, but the skill set's there. There's no question. He can definitely play. And again, the staff knows what the hell they know what they're doing. So if they offer if a guy is a take anywhere, it typically just means that, they see something in him, obviously, and they are right way more than they're wrong. And this right here saying that, okay, yeah. So Carrollton's got a really nice program. So you see a ton of body size over there. Yeah, man. So Carrollton's got a really, really strong program. I'm anxious to see how they look. We was talking about them yesterday too. So I'm curious. I'm going up to Auburn on Friday. So I don't know if you know anyone that's on the actual football team, but if you do, I would love to know if y'all are coming to that one, because it sounded like Carrollton might be there and Grayson might be there. But we looking for some extra competition. But either way, that's gonna do it, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this after the fact, y'all please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks. Peace.